This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is just between us. With your host, Cam Allen.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is Just Between Us. And I'll wait just a second here to introduce my co-host because he's busy doing something at the moment.
Just introduce me. They can underhear me.
Sorta. You sound like you're underwater at the moment.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, you must add your hand on the microphone or something. You sound better now. And my co-host at First Alan2 on X. Alan, how are you doing today?
I'm super excited, dude.
Right on.
I want to see what this human being looks like.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into it here in just a second. Austin will be joining us again in a day or two, but he is taking the next couple days off. Today we are going to be reviewing a video from, what is it, Jubilee?
Jubilee, yeah.
Yeah. Covering who they claim is a real human being and not a lizard. What's his name? James Talarico. And you might have seen his videos on X if you are on there recently. They've popped up in my feed a lot. I'm sure he's paying quite a bit for advertising at the moment.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I don't even know what exactly he's running for. Like, no idea.
I think he's going to tell us.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out here in just a minute. But I'm going to play just a brief video real quick that is posted from his X channel to give us an idea of who he is, and then we're going to get right into the Jubilee video. And keep in mind, this is a video that he posted himself.
Poverty exists in the wealthiest country on earth is not because we can't feed the poor. It's because we can't satisfy the rich. Elon Musk
that's
is
what
about
it
to
is.
become the first trillionaire. He's about to make more money than every elementary school teacher in America combined. Do we really believe one man is worth more than every elementary school teacher? Why do we have a trillionaire
So stupid.
when there are kids without enough to eat? Why do we have a trillionaire when cancer patients are going bankrupt? Why do we have a trillionaire when veterans are sleeping out on the street? I'm all for success, but this is not success. This is hoarding.
Why do we have a single illegal immigrant when we have veterans out on the street?
More money than they could possibly spend in 100 lifetimes.
What's going on with the
when there
world?
are people starving in this one. The reason poverty exists in the wealthiest country on earth is
So this
not
man
because we
fancies
can't feed the
himself
poor,
a man
it's
of
because
God,
we can't
Alan.
satisfy the rich.
I
But
believe
what
him.
we can do
Wink,
is
wink, nudge,
tax
nudge.
trillionaires out of existence
He's very convincing. Like a good psychopath always is.
and use that money to guarantee food, healthcare, and housing for every single American.
Oh, why wouldn't we do that, Alan? It's so common sense.
I feel very relieved knowing this guy exists. I mean,
Do you?
I feel like he's a real human being.
You think he's a real human being? You truly feel that way?
Hit the sound effect. Hit
I'm
the sound
hang-
effect.
Lizard, 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 lizard.
I don't think she agrees. I was
You
trying to
think
hit the
so?
sound effect. You needed to give me a second. That's why I was continuing to talk. But anyway, yeah, so he self-proclaims to be some sort of minister. Of course, one of these, radical trans ministers. I don't know if he identifies as trans. I'm not sure how James identifies personally. But he wants to be a
I think he
Texas...
identifies as something.
He wants to be a Texas state representative. He's a former middle school teacher, apparently, which is very scary. And he's a Presbyterian seminarian running for U.S. Senate. Oh, he is a Texas state representative already. Yikes.
Right. Yep, they did it.
Oh, First of all,
They won all the things.
and we're not going to get into this, but I just have to address it because we played the video.
Mhm.
Elon Musk does not have $1 trillion. Even when his net worth is $2 trillion, he doesn't have $1 trillion. It doesn't work like that. Just had to get that out there.
I don't know. I think he has 10 billion trillion, right?
Yes,
I
that's
mean, if
what
we're
it
just
is.
making stuff up, you know,
Yeah, I suppose so, huh?
you just say whatever you want.
I think that's how it works.
How many billions do you have?
Not as many as you, but I'm trying.
I ain't no kind of dirty rich person. Keep that out of your mouth. That's like the new thing on the left is to argue who has less money. You know, I got less money than you. Well, I got 42 billion, but I'm trying to give it away.
So anyway, the video we're going to be watching today, and we might skim through parts of it. We might skip over a little bit in the middle or something, because sometimes these kind of take a, you know, they fall off a cliff as far as interest. It just depends. We'll see how it goes. But it is called Surrounded, and it is on the Jubilee channel. Is that right? On YouTube. I would never remember if it's... Yeah, it's got to be that way. And so anyway, James Talarico is going to sit down with 20 voters, not conservatives, voters. So these are potential voters for him, whatever that, you know, means in reality. But we're going to watch it and see what happens here, basically.
Let's see what happens here.
You can go and see the original video and follow along on YouTube on the Jubilee channel if you would prefer, because obviously, you know, this is a review of it, not the video itself. Here we go.
Yeah. Honestly, James, I don't think you're going to do anything. We've heard it before, you know, drain the swamp, eat the rich until they get voted, and then they're just rich people swimming in the swamp.
Here's where I agree with you. We need way more investment in our communities here in America.
How?
It's why I fight.
How?
Yeah,
I like this guy.
It's why I fight for...
How do we need to invest in those communities?
Yeah. Barbara Jordan, a great Texan, she said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so the argument I'm making with this claim is if young people in particular aren't at the table in this election, we will continue to be on the menu in 2027.
Young people are going to be on the menu.
I'm a Texas state representative, former middle school teacher, and Presbyterian seminarian, running for the U.S. Senate to take power back for working people. And I'm surrounded by 25 undecided voters here in the great state of Texas.
So,
Boom, boom,
do you
boom.
know better than I do what a seminarian is?
A seminarian is somebody who has been impregnated by the devil's semen. What I've heard. I don't know exactly, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, seminary, that tracks with the word, I guess. I thought you were just spouting off there, but then I was like, no, wait.
No, I'm telling only facts, bro.
Oh.
Only facts.
So I apologize. He's not a priest. He's a Presbyterian seminarian, whatever that means. I can only defer to Alan's belief because I have no idea.
That's why he's having trouble sitting down, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
It's as insufferable as you can imagine, as you'll see.
My first claim is that cuts to healthcare and food assistance hurt all of us.
That's not the question, James.
Let's hear what he says.
Hi.
Hi, James.
Daniel?
Yes.
So nice to meet you.
Oh, good. We start with
my
this guy.
faith teaches me to love my neighbor as myself. In fact, all the major world religions teach something similar, that we should treat others as we want to be treated. The golden rule. I think all of these ancient wisdom traditions are hitting on the same truth, which is that we're interconnected, that what impacts any of us directly impacts all of us indirectly. We are a social species. We rise and fall together. And I think that's particularly true in healthcare and food assistance, because the Republicans in DC are trying to raise premiums on some Americans.
He is not buying this.
That will end up raising premiums on all of us. Right now, they're cutting food assistance for hungry kids and working parents.
Well, pause it real
That's going to
quick.
end up raising grocery prices.
Yeah.
You remember the leftist argument is always we just tax the rich, and the Republican argument is always every time he just tries to raise taxes on the rich, it affects everybody, and everyone's taxes go up, and then the rich get exemptions anyway, because all of the guys that vote to raise those taxes are rich people, and they're not going to ever raise to get their money taken away. So they're going to put loopholes in tax exemptions, and all that happens is we put a massive burden on the middle class.
Right.
Somehow he will never make that argument, even though he just made it for the raising of the food prices. He's a retard, brother.
Yeah, and already from the beginning, he's just going right into. Do you think? This is the question that I wanted to ask you that I forgot to before we started. Do you think this kind of politician is going to work in the near future, in this coming election? Do you think that Americans are done listening to, mealy-mouthed, clean-cut politicians that every word is rehearsed?
Human beings?
Exactly. Or...
Yeah, I think we're all sick of them.
At least as I prefer to refer to them.
Lizard.
Yeah. That. Anyway, I was just making sure I wasn't the one saying it. I don't think so either. Allegedly, these would be Democrats, right? Because that's who his potential constituents are. And you can see as he's going through this whole spiel where he's essentially saying nothing, this guy's just staring right through him, just waiting for him to finish talking so that he can ask him a real question. Let's see how it goes.
For all of us. And so they may think that they're just attacking some Americans, but in fact, they're attacking all Americans.
I want to focus on the religious aspect because I agree.
Yeah.
Have a very Christian background.
Yeah.
But if you look at major religions, including Christianity, it is not a focus on a political system. It's a focus on individual responsibility. And when the political system takes away the individual responsibility and says, don't worry, the government's going to take care of you, you are absolutely going to catch people who need that. And it's a hand up and it helps them. But you're also going to take away from the individual responsibility, which is needed to get out of those situations. So when you talk about food stamps and healthcare and helping, how do you balance that? Because I haven't heard a good democratic argument of, great, let's help people, but how are you? There are nasty people. There are welfare queens. There are nasty people who take advantage of the system and take away from those who earned it, take away from those who need it. So how are you going to take that into account? How are you going to?
I don't like that.
Going to make sure we cover that risk as well.
The biggest welfare queens in this country are the giant corporations that don't pay a penny in federal taxes. The biggest welfare queens are the CEOs who get a tax deduction for flying on a private jet.
Yes, none of us are in favor of them getting tax dollars.
It's not working parents who work multiple jobs to provide for their families. I agree with you that we need individual responsibility.
Sometimes.
And I don't want to create a culture of dependency. I want a hand up and not a handout. I believe that you don't give a man to fish, you teach a man to fish. But if you're going to take your friend out on a boat for the day and teach him how to fish,
it's
you
just
want to make sure he had breakfast that morning. You want to make sure he's not sick because that allows him to learn how to fish. Again, I was a public school teacher, so I saw how when kids showed up hungry, they couldn't learn that day. Even my brightest students, even my hardest working students couldn't succeed, couldn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they didn't have boots.
They should have let them out of the basement.
That's what I'm trying to fix in this country. We don't want dependency.
When was the last time a
hard
Republican
work,
said pull yourself up?
And I think that should apply to those billionaires,
1982,
not just working people.
I'm going to push back.
Yeah, please.
I agree with a lot of what you said.
Yeah.
But the issue is, how do you prevent people from taking advantage of the system? And I'm not going to say that, we would agree that in any kind of welfare system or any kind of aid, you have a population of people who need it, who use it to better themselves and better those around you. You also have a population of those who abuse it, and because it's there, it's harmful to them because they're uninspired to live up to their potential, and it's harmful to everyone else because they're a leech on society. And I think generally we would disagree on the percentage of how much is this group and how much is that group. That's okay, but how do we prevent this group from taking advantage, not only of those of us who are hardworking and make a good amount of money, but those that really need the aid, who get a bad reputation because of these shitheads.
Islamic questioning went to the toilet.
This has actually been studied, and the fraud rates for SNAP, the food assistance program, and for Medicaid are shockingly low. And what happens here is the corporate media, they try to pick out some rare case and they blow it up, they sensationalize it because they want to discredit these programs, because they don't want tax dollars going to help feed hungry kids.
So he's docking
they
the
want
question.
tax
He's
dollars
just saying
going to
it's really
billionaires
low, so
that
don't
own
worry
the
about
media,
it.
So
they
they
want
can
tax dollars
get
going
even
to
more wealth.
Somalia.
I wanted to go back to something you said, because we're both people of faith, both Christians, it sounds like. I completely agree with you that everyone has a personal moral responsibility
He's just
to
filibustering.
do right,
And
to
this
do
is
good,
what?
to
Not
better
even
themselves.
5 minutes in?
But I'll also just
Exactly
say we also
5
have a
minutes in.
responsibility to our neighbors, to our community. And in fact, so much of our tradition comes out of the Jewish tradition, which is all about a covenant, a community of people, not singular individuals, but us as a community, us as a covenant. Jesus didn't tell us to love our immediate family members. Jesus didn't tell us to love our close friends. Those probably would have been easier commandments to follow. He told us to love our neighbors. And then he specifically went further and defined neighbor as someone who's very...
What a weird spin-off. He said Jews didn't tell us to love our immediate family members or our neighbors. They told you to love other Jews because Jews were the only ones within the covenant. So that's what was revolutionary about Jesus Christ. He said to love your enemy, right? That's what changed it. He just went over that. I don't know why. I think that's certain backers he's trying to win the hearts and minds of.
Interesting. So you think it's a specific nod to either a
Mm-hmm.
funder
Absolutely.
or to
It was
a
such a
constituency?
left wing. I mean, not left wing, a left turn. In the conversation, he could have just said Jesus Christ told us, because the guy says he's a Christian. And if he's trying to talk to him and convince him, he would go with the Christian tradition. But weirdly enough, he goes to the Jewish one, which actually doesn't say that. It says to be loyal to your tribe. It doesn't say go out and... Why do you think their Jewish charities only help Jewish children? I mean, it's a really stupid argument.
I frankly don't know. So, but yeah, and the part that I can't stand is that, he's taking these religious tenets as he sees fit, and then entirely interpreting them in his own way. He's not trying to understand them as they are written, or trying to understand them as all mankind has understood them for 7,000 years. He's instead just interpreting it his way and pretending that that's what we all agree on, when this is clearly not what it says when you read everything in context. And that's, it's the same thing they do with the Constitution and everything else, sure. But
you had a great
it's especially
point
annoying because
the other day when we were talking. We talked about the idea of turn the other cheek, right? And how that's a personal philosophy. And then you said, to expand upon that, Jesus did not supersede the eye for an eye, which is a societal prescription, and I thought that was a great point, how there's people that if they're not very familiar with God's words, you can twist them in any kind of way. And even Jesus points that out, whitewashed tomb, they twist the language of God for their own purposes.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, it says you go to hell for that. So we'll see what else he has.
Well, and the eye for an eye is exactly, that's a great example, because people tend to look at it and think, well, that just means, if whatever you do to me, I can do to you. But they don't look at it as, no, it's actually a limiting factor. It's not giving you permission to kill somebody because somebody killed, your dog or whatever. It's limiting an eye for an eye. Exactly. Being the response needs to be proportional to the crime.
But the bigger point is turn the other cheek is a personal prescription for it, and then the eye for an eye is a societal prescription.
Right.
And I think that's a very good, that when you made that, I thought about that for a while. I was like, that's a really good point.
And that is an inherently a public thing. Loving your neighbors is something you do out in public. It's why my faith motivates me to do public service. First as a public
not necessarily. It means all kinds of things.
And so I just want to hold both of those two things together, because there's absolutely a role for individual responsibility and individual choices, but there's also responsibility to others and to the community. Both those things can be true at the same time.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please
You did a great
return
job.
to your seat.
Yeah, it's nice to
So
meet you.
the one question he asked him was, how do we deal with the people taking advantage of the system? There was no answer to that question.
Hey,
That was a weak.
So nice to
He
meet you.
started out strong.
On its face, when
and
you're
then-
saying cuts to healthcare, cuts
Wasn't the best
to
question, yeah.
food assistance hurts all of us, sounds good. But if you look at it at the inverse, increases to healthcare and increases to food assistance doesn't help all of us. And the reason why is we have a bloated healthcare system where a lot of the money that goes into it gets accrued to the intermediaries, the companies delivering these services, the consultant class. A lot of fraud happens.
government.
I mean, we have a current member of the Senate, not in Texas, but in the U.S., who defrauded millions of people out of Medicare benefits and the like. So one of the things that I worry about is when we're talking about restoring the money that's been cut, is how is it going to be used effectively? So I'm not against having more healthcare to more people. What I'm against is that money being used inappropriately. And you talk about the wealthy, the top versus bottom. This is a system that actually makes more people poor, and the fewer that are really rich, richer, because it gives more opportunities for money to be sucked out of the system and accrued into fewer hands. So not necessarily serving more people. So that's why I hesitate to agree that necessarily cutting healthcare, cutting food assistance is necessarily hurting all of us. Maybe it's probably hurting the rich more than it is hurting most of us.
Well, you were preaching to the choir. I think we've got to transform this healthcare system
That
from
started off well
the
said.
bottom up. Most other countries around the world have figured out how to provide quality healthcare at lower costs for more people.
How are you going to do
We're
it
the
for
only rich
Americans
country
if
that
you
hasn't
think it's
figured this out,
possible? Not what other
because
countries are
we
doing.
have giant health insurance companies leeching the life
Oh,
out
it's
of
the
our healthcare
corporation's
system.
fault.
And so I absolutely agree with you. If we're cutting some of those profit margins for
I'm
these
not
giant
really a
healthcare companies,
corporatist, but-
I'm all for it.
No, I'm
But that's
not
what's
either,
being,
but
being proposed
that's the
in
Democrats
Washington
always
right
go
now.
to. It's just
That
everything's
bigger because
corporation's
it's gonna kick
fault.
millions
It's
of
the
Texans off the
boogeyman.
healthcare.
The
You can
government's
always
the one
point
that's
at the
government shutdown
boogeyman.
Yeah,
is all
the
about
government's the one
the
that gave them
Republicans
the money
trying
and the
to raise
protection in the first
premiums
place.
on working people.
Yep.
Those folks who can no longer afford to pay those higher premiums, they're going to drop their health insurance. Those folks are no longer going to get their screenings. They're no longer going to get their checkups. They're going to wait. Things are going to get worse. They're going to get sicker. And then where will they go? To the emergency room. And who pays for that? Me and you. It's going to raise our property taxes here in Texas. For indigent care at the county level, we all pay for that. And it is so much more expensive on the back end than it is on the front end. We end up saving money if we invest in preventative care on the front end. And so that's my point with this claim, is that we're all interconnected. What hurts some of us ends up hurting all of us. And when we're all better off, we're all better off. Same with the food assistance cuts. Cutting SNAP benefits for hungry kids and working parents, it disrupts the entire supply chain in our economy, from ranchers and farmers here in Texas to distributors and truck drivers to grocery stores like HEB. And when supply goes down, prices go up. So because the Republicans in DC are cutting food assistance for poor folks, it's now going to make grocery store prices even more expensive for everybody. So if we make the decision to invest in our neighbors, to love our neighbors through good public policy, even when we're open to reform and fixing these broken systems, it's actually going to make us all healthier. It's going to make us all safer. It's going to make us all richer.
I mean, that sounds really good. The only thing that I'm sort of hearing coming from your answer is it's an acceptable cost or benefit to, give more money to the intermediaries if it's giving more people healthcare.
Good
and that's
interpretation,
where I
'cause that is
continue
what he
to
said.
sort of hesitate.
Let me give you a solution that could address this. I'm for a public option. I'm for allowing anyone in the state of Texas, anyone in America, to sign up for Medicare, to be able to access high quality, low cost healthcare. I think when we do that, you're going to see folks who are in terrible
Still not
healthcare
addressing
plans
the intermediary
flee
problem.
and join this public option. It creates competition in the market. It
No,
creates
it doesn't.
choice. It creates
It literally creates
opportunities
the
for people to
opposite.
decide what's best for themselves and their families. So I am not satisfied with this healthcare system. Please do not misunderstand me. We need transformational change when it comes to healthcare in this country, because I believe healthcare is a human right. and it shouldn't depend on how much money you make or how much money your parents make.
I wish I could hit
we
the
all are
lizard button
entitled
right
to
now.
high quality, low cost, affordable healthcare.
Why instead of reform,
The
not
problem-
just completely
pause it.
dismantle and start from scratch?
The only human right issue I see is what you're going to do is you're going to decrease the wage for doctors. I mean, you can talk about medical and stuff, all like, medical equipment and maybe subsidizing that through the tax base, but you're going to have doctors working for slave wages. And that's why in these countries where they have mandated free healthcare, they flee, they come to America, or they go to areas that don't have that so they can make that money. So essentially, you're saying that doctors are greedy douchebags, if you
that's part
like
of it, yeah.
I think it's England, right, where they have to work there for 8 years or something if they go to school there. And they're mandated. They are slave wages. And I'm not sure, but I did hear one British guy talking, and he said you can pay a massive fine if you try to cut out of that.
Yeah, I know they're pretty much all stuck on being paid a doctor wage from the Hold on, I'm looking real quick to see what exactly. So let's see, quality called specialists. So specialists can receive up to $126,000. Now keep in mind that's after spending, $500,000 on school. $126,000 a year is not that much. Not for a specialist. That means a regular doctor is probably more like 80 or 90,000 tops. Whereas here in the United States, the only thing you're limited by is the amount of patients you can see and how well you are liked by your patient, how good you are as a doctor. There's nobody that is limiting your salary except for your ability. And like you're saying, yeah, when you put them under a government system like this, now they can all make this much, and that's it. And that's
Are you allowed to leave? Did it say if you're allowed to leave or not?
I can check. I'll
check. Keep it playing. I'll look. I got me a tablet.
Okay. There's probably like some way out of it, but yeah, you either have to put in a dedicated amount, or plus there's not that many people that can afford to go outside the system because the amount of money that has to be taken out of their taxes in order to pay for it. The biggest myth is that any of this is free. You're just paying for your health care through your taxes, and it's not cheaper, it's more expensive. Every time.
I know. Well, what's hilarious is we just talked about those tax exemptions. Guys in England, because their taxes are eking up, the rich people find ways to get out of it. They can afford for all the whoop-de-doo tax loopy-poo. And the middle class that can't afford those special, tax lawyers and accountants, they're the ones stuck paying for it.
Yep.
So it's another attack on the middle class.
Well, and the largest chunk of money comes from the middle class, because it's the largest class by far. But yeah, it just insane.
Because to me, cutting or reforming has not worked in the last 20, 30, 40 years. There's been incremental changes around the corners, and none of that has worked. To me, the solution is a complete reworking of the entire system. So any sort of reform, to me, does not do the job, does not go far enough.
I'm completely for holistic reform and reworking of the system.
Why don't they just get
as a
them
legislator
stand for their
over
flags?
4 terms in the state capitol? I've realized how difficult it is to make change. I've got big dreams for this state and for this country, but I'm also very realistic on what I can promise as a candidate for office. And I don't want to sit here and tell you that I can transform the system overnight. I can't. What I can do is adopt some actual reforms that'll help provide more healthcare to more people.
What are those reforms?
And you said that you haven't seen the system get better. I want to push back on that.
You just never mentioned them.
The Affordable Care Act was
And
passed.
let the person use their imagination.
Saw health insurance companies no longer able to deny Americans coverage for pre-existing conditions. We saw that young people could stay on their parents' plan until they're 26. We have seen progress. It's too slow.
That's not progress.
It's unacceptably slow. The only way that's going to change is if you and the people around this circle take more ownership of this democratic process, not just voting, but running for office yourselves, supporting candidates, organizing, protest. That's how we can speed
Before
up
the
pace of
recent
change, which
increases,
I desperately
prices
hope we can do
quadrupled
because
from
people
the
are counting on
ACA.
it.
All right, pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Great
Please
job.
return to your seat.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi, Brandon. So nice to meet you. Yeah.
Pleasure. So,
All right, Brandon.
I agree with your sentiment.
Yeah.
However, what I've seen over the last 2 weeks or so, I live in East Texas.
Yeah.
So when the SNAP benefits were being cut, I made a post on a Facebook group out in our area, and it received more love and support than I've seen through communities. So I think that I agree that the benefits being cut is a very, very bad thing. That we should definitely be doing everything we can to help the people who are in need. But it's also shown me that the indomitable spirit of the American will come together and rescue the people that really need the help, at that time. So
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And in fact, I'm running for U.S. Senate.
That wasn't even a question.
We have 8,000 people who have signed up to volunteer for the campaign, which is great. As a politician, you always want to have people volunteering. But when these food assistance programs were cut, we decided to channel all of that volunteer energy away from our campaign.
They were
and
cut
into
to
food
illegal
banks
immigrants.
all over the state of Texas. We had a bunch of
And
Team Talarico
to
volunteers at
one
the San Antonio
very
and
slim
Houston Food
group
Bank, helping to
of
make sure that we were
basically
taking care of our
single
neighbors.
childless men.
I'm trying to go a little further
That's
with
it.
this claim and say not only is it the right thing to do, it's also the smart thing to do.
Sure.
Because when we cut these programs that provide a lifeline to our neighbors who are struggling, it ends up allowing them to be more productive.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on one second. Households. I'm looking something up because I don't want it to pass by without. So he said, SNAP is providing an essential lifeline.
Did you say you called me the guest, not your co-host?
When?
No, on the description of the
in the
video, you
description,
said that I know the guest's audio is poor.
Oh, did I forget to delete that again? So that was in there from the first time we did live together on Rumble, and I have to delete that every time. So I forgot to delete it today. I don't know how to reset the thing so that it doesn't show up every time.
Just probably put in the master of the show, Alan, is
22.
The world's great.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
The world's greatest living American.
So this is the problem: is you can't get a legitimate number. 22 point some million Americans, and I wonder if that doesn't include illegals, are receiving SNAP benefits. Now, when you look up the poverty rate says that there is 12.9% of households in poverty, which is a little bit more than 22 million. But that's not actually true. It's like 3% or something like that. We talked about this recently because the SPM doesn't include all the tax breaks and subsidies and benefits that these houses and households get. There's an overwhelming number of people that receive SNAP benefits that do not need them.
Well, the thing we looked up, it said there's 1% of people that are truly below the established poverty line with those benefits, and they're homeless.
Yeah.
That's homeless people.
That's right. I couldn't remember the exact number we got from looking it up, but you have to look beyond the SPM because the SPM does not include any of that data. It just strictly looks at the before tax and incentives and subsidies income, which means nothing
Do you
at
know
all.
how many subreddits are set up to exploit the system? And when you go and read these people, they tell you like different programs and different things that you can fill out to exploit our welfare system, our safety net, and make a living off of it. And the people commenting are people that live at home with their mom, 19-year-old, or somebody who's like addicted to drugs, who clearly just says it because Reddit's apparently anonymous, so they don't worry about any repercussions. And they just talk about, living off of the system as a career,
Right.
And then on top of that, you got people that get stuck in the death loop of it. I mean, if you're on welfare for 25 years in this country, there's something wrong. Like if you're not disabled and you don't have a severe mental condition, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I would say so. That's for sure.
How did people survive 60 years ago?
The other thing is, or the other part of that is, a big part of why there's such a high percentage of people that are on these programs and they wouldn't have income otherwise is because they're on these programs. Because these programs are designed that if you make a little bit of money, you're trying to support yourself, you're punished. But if you just make no money, we'll give you everything you need. If I were to just
absolutely right.
eliminate my job completely and do nothing whatsoever, I could go get on everything.
They worked like a minimum wage job, and they got an offer for a better job that paid, like out here, like $16 an hour, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do it because they determined they make more through their benefits.
Yep.
Than going to work that job. And that's a real freaking problem.
And that's not to include people that make money under the table. That's not to include people that have kids that aren't married, where the female, has zero income and she reports having all the kids, so she gets $2,000 a month in food stamps and the house paid for and all of this. And the boyfriend lives with her, the baby daddy lives with her, but he reports that he lives somewhere else and he makes $80,000 a year.
That's something they do out here a lot because people live in trailers, and it's not uncommon to get an address put up for a little camper next door to where you live. And they do it all the freaking time.
What does it cost to for rent in a trailer park? $500 a month versus $5,000 of extra income? Of course I'm going to pay $500 a month for $5,000 extra
Well, it's not
income.
even that. They just have to pay for an address. They go to the registrar's office, make an address, and it's a little camper. So if anyone comes by, it looks like they live there. They live in the regular house. And then on top of that, they pay like $40 in property tax just for this little spot of land.
Yeah.
I mean, people manipulate the crap out of it, dude.
Yep. And
it doesn't help anybody. It hurts them. Mm-hmm. It hurts their life, and it hurts the rest of the people having to pay for them. It hurts them on account of they never have to achieve anything. Human beings are not made to lay around all day doing nothing.
What's sadly ironic is they become, exceptionally good at gaming the system, and they spend a lot of time doing that. But you're spending it's like saying you're a really good bank robber. You're still a POS, and we shouldn't be rewarding that. Period. You can't be taking money from hardworking people to give to people like that. You just can't do that.
And it's a destroyer of potential. Who among these people could make a real contribution to society? Maybe they could go into welding. Maybe they could be a nurse. Maybe they could be a lip breaker,
this is not getting better.
Maybe they could be a guy that lays on the road panhandling.
Maybe they could lick stop signs. Who knows?
They could be a prostitute. You don't even know. They could contribute to society.
A lot of them
are married in different ways.
I'm sure a lot of them are.
No, but they're never going to pursue those things. They're never going to pursue a career that actually helps their society.
Yep.
Because they're just making enough money doing nothing.
Yep. All righty.
It allows them to give their gift. I believe every person is made in the image of God. Sure. Every person has something unique to give this world. And when we make sure that everyone has enough to eat, we make sure everybody is healthy, people are able to give that gift. Sure. And that ends up benefiting all of us. I really do believe that the next great business idea is trapped in the mind of a kid in poverty on the west side of San Antonio.
I think the scary part for me is that what we're witnessing right now is that these these programs that are designed to help people and designed to help further our communities can be used as weapons, as threats that if this bill doesn't get passed, we're going to cut, we're going to cut healthcare, we're going to cut, funding for food for children. I mean, my problem is that there's so much partisanship in politics now, where it feels like the
don't worry,
politicians that we have in office right now don't necessarily care what the issue is. They just care about the outcome, which is my party wins, the other team loses. So
the problem is they don't care about the outcome, guy.
I've had to work across the aisle to get stuff done, and
this is the ultimate
I want to tell you a story.
platitudes
When I was running for
competition.
this
I feel like
seat
this
in the state
dude
house,
is a
I was 28
plant.
years
Like
old,
he's just
healthy
here to say
guy,
he hasn't
and I
asked a
decided
single
to walk the
question.
entire length of my district from Round Rock, Texas, to Taylor, Texas, 25 miles. It was a long walk. It was all in the Texas heat.
Quick, Chris.
Halfway through the walk,
Let's try that. I believe people are people and they deserve to be people. And I think that's good. What do you think?
That's a hell of a point, Alan. Could you tell me more about how benevolent you are as a human being?
Well, I just think people deserve to get treated like people. And if people treated other people like people, we'd have more people that are amazing. And I think the guy out there robbing the liquor store, the guy out there beating up the homeless guy for fun, taking video of it to put on the internet, I think the guy out there doing some R word on some poor people, I think he could be a rocket scientist.
Really? And
he's out there.
How could we make him a rocket scientist? Because obviously, if we can take these people that are from these vulnerable communities and help them grow in an amazing way, it would be great for everybody. The collective, the whole would benefit from what we do for these individuals. So how
the
can we do
guy out
that?
there, the guy who got kicked out of school when he was 9 years old for participating in a gang R, if he got back to school, got his GED, he might be. He could be president.
Could be.
That's what I think. Carry on.
Great answer. That is a great answer. And I am ready to vote for you.
I started to feel
fatigued
and nauseous. I actually threw up a couple times in the last half of the walk. Somehow I finished it. My family got concerned.
He really struggled.
The nurses tested my blood sugar.
Let me clarify, since we interrupted that. He's talking about I walked from one end of my district to the other. My family got very concerned. I actually threw up because I got dehydrated. You walked 25 miles. Boo-hoo. And don't tell me you didn't stay at a hotel after 5 and then keep going.
No. Halfway through, he had to sell his kidney to get gas money. Okay? He couldn't eat. He cut his own kidney out and sold it for a can of beans.
So you're saying
that's how much he cares.
He sold his kidney for the poor kids in Texas.
District to another, just with earphones in, didn't talk to anybody, just
walking.
Like I'd ever had my blood sugar tested before. They told me that a normal blood sugar is 100 or lower. Mine was 900. I was in a state of diabetic ketoacidosis. They told me that I had type 1 diabetes. I didn't even know what type 1 diabetes was, to be honest with you. I went to Walgreens to pick up my first 30-day supply of insulin. This new medicine that I now needed to live.
Yeah.
He didn't know what type 1 diabetes is?
What he said.
He's admitting to be retarded, too. Okay, carry on. I just want to call that out.
Do you believe this story?
Do I believe he's retarded? Yeah, I think so.
I'm not saying he doesn't have type 1 diabetes. He very well might. He found that out at a pre-exam of a pre-exam. He did not find that out because he walked across the district. He's trying to make it sound like this all happened at once.
This is turning into a Greek odyssey right here. This is,
exactly.
And that's when I came across the Minotaur. And I was able to hide in the labyrinth for him to go by, and I cut his head off with my trusty sword.
And in doing so...
Now, I still have the Minotaur's double-bladed axe in my apartment, if you want to see it.
And in doing so, I forgave the sins of all Texans. Jesus forgave the sins of all mankind, but I was able to forgive them again for all Texans. Okay.
And never forget, we should mention the Jews when it's not even relevant to the conversation.
And it cost me
Good idea.
$684.
Yeah, it's crazy.
For a 30-day supply. And
James, if you want to buy that same bottle of insulin for your dog,
Yeah, because you have
it's
millions of
$25.
dollars.
Well, and so here in Texas, after I got elected, I worked with people with diabetes all over the state. I found out that people were
Why is it
rationing,
$638
skipping their
for
doses.
him
Some of them were dying
and
because they
$4
couldn't
for his
afford it.
dog?
Right.
And I was able to work
Because of
across
the
aisle with our Republican colleagues
ACA,
to
it
pass the
controls
first ever cap on
everything
insulin
regarding
copays
healthcare.
in Texas history.
Sure.
So from $684,
I'm starting to
even
think
with
he's
insurance,
poo-poo,
we capped it at $25.
Yeah.
So now, through public policy, we're going to make sure that people with diabetes can live a long and healthy life. This system is broken.
They are.
This healthcare system is broken. Progress is way too slow, but when we come together, when we actually believe progress is possible, we can make people's lives better, and that's the whole purpose of politics.
Sure.
All right, pause. You've been voted
We
out by
gave the
majority.
entire
Thank you.
healthcare system over to the government to regulate. So who broke
Did I
it?
hear one thing in there that's actionable?
No.
Hi,
No.
Maria.
I didn't.
So nice to
No, and that guy didn't ask a single question either. That's why I said he was a plant, because not a single question was asked. Oh, it's going to drive me nuts.
meet you.
Okay,
What
so
is
I
it?
want to go back to
Oh, I keep
kind of
hitting
what you
this.
guys were saying.
Yeah.
My
You were
mic
saying
stand.
that through your faith, charity and giving is part of what makes us all run. And I think that the issue here is that the charity and the love is important,
Yeah.
but it's not something that is in government. I think it's something that is moral and civic education, and that's very much needed in order for us to live in a just and free society. But government isn't where you put the charity, because the thing is, I was a former social worker before I became a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah, good.
And I worked with a lot of people, adults and kids. And one of the things that I've seen is like when people are on food assistance for too long, and I think something like 30% of SNAP beneficiaries stay on it long term, it kind of perpetuates
Okay, she's getting
and
to
keeps
something.
them in poverty rather than helping them out
Usually.
of it. And if it
So let me know. So these fact checks from Jubilee, sometimes they're fairly accurate, sometimes they're not. This one is very deceptive. SNAP benefits usually last from 1 month to 3 years, depending on factors like employment, status, and dependency. I thought that said 1 to 3 months. So it's not disputing her
No.
anyway. Okay, I apologize. I misread that. 1 to 3 years makes sense because that's what she said. They stay on 30 months or more.
I want to
She's
see how
the
many
actual
people
social
are
worker.
on for 10 plus years. Let me look that up while we're watching.
missing a
Probably
big
not a
middle class.
huge
We're saying
number.
we're talking about like the poor kids that obviously should have food, but there's a big class outside of that that is struggling and doesn't have the food assistance. So I don't think it's a government
I hear you.
thing.
So I was just talking about a scripture that guides me, and that's Matthew.
So what her question is and should have been was, why is government better to provide these benefits than charity or private organization? Just to
25
clarify, because
about
that was
how
very
we're judged and how
roundabout.
we're saved. I forgot to add that judgment is not just on individuals, it's also on the nations. So it is both us as people, it's also
Liar.
us
Bible
as communities,
says.
and whether or not our communities,
You're
our
wrong,
nations, our
bitch.
governments are caring for the poor and the hungry.
He
and the
can't
widow
prove that.
and the
That is
orphan.
not true.
So if you look through the entire
A
Bible,
Christian
particularly the Hebrew
nation will do
scriptures,
these things. In fact, all of
there's
these
so
welfare
much
things were taken
criticism
care of by the
of
church
kingdoms and
until the government
empires
stepped in and began to
governments
kick
for
them
not
out.
doing right by their people.
Yep.
So many of the Hebrew prophets called out the powerful, the people who are in charge. The difference is today we live in a democracy. We don't live in an empire. And so we are making these decisions together.
Yeah, we do.
And when we decide as a country through the consent of the governed that we want to pitch in to make sure that the most vulnerable people have what they need to succeed and fulfill their potential, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a very Christian thing to do. There are so many politicians who talk about making this a Christian nation until it comes to feeding the hungry, until it comes to caring for the sick, until it comes to serving the poor. You talked about people being long-term on food
Because
assistance.
you're not.
I would say the reason for that is because we haven't raised the minimum wage in this country in 15
Jesus.
years. Here in Texas, it's still a little over $7 an hour.
Yes, but the states
We
have done
allow
it
these
over and
giant
over and over.
multinational corporations making record profits to pay people poverty
The
level
average
wages.
wage of the
That
American
is
has
what's
gone
keeping
up
people in a cycle
significantly.
of dependency. That's what's keeping people in poverty, not because we want to provide some basic health care and basic food assistance.
I think it's both. I mean, on paper it's $7, but if you go to McDonald's, you're making $12, which is not good.
Right,
it's
sure.
It's still not
In the
great,
richest country in the
but
world,
it
yeah.
is. It's more than $7.
What does that
but
have
I
to do
think
with anything?
when you're trying to put charity into policy, you're taking away communities. You're taking away the power in communities.
We don't want to do that.
And a lot of people, if they don't have the education
Okay, so how are
and the
you not going
statistics,
to do that?
they kind of just go, like you said, they vote based on what the billionaires kind of
Emotion.
like drift down. But what's needed there is the education piece in keeping policies or putting more money into systems that are keeping people longer into poverty.
This woman is very
or keeping
annoying
them
to listen
there
to because,
isn't good.
like,
We
I
want to
get what
lift
she's
a lot of
trying to
poverty.
say,
Right.
but she's
We wanna
really
end
struggling
poverty.
to say
We
it.
want to make sure that everyone can contribute
blowing
what
her
they have to
moment.
give to this economy, to this country.
I can't
That's
believe
the
no
goal.
one's flagged her.
And,
Sure.
Hey,
and
while we're
I think the way
watching,
we
can
do
you
that
look up
is
real
by
quick?
unrigging the system, because working hard no longer pays. It really
If a
doesn't.
new
You can work
person,
multiple
if they
jobs
come
and
off
still
of
not get
SNAP
into the middle
benefits
class.
and
That's what
re-up,
we have
are
to
they
fix.
counted
And
as
you're
a
right. It's
new
not just government.
user?
It's also churches and nonprofits and community groups. It's all the above. All of us have to be working to make sure that every single Texan, every single American can fulfill their God-given potential.
All right.
Oh, that's why no one was
Return
flagging
to your
her.
seat.
Okay.
Hey, good job, everybody.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say thanks so much to Straight Arrow News for powering the fact checks in this.
Lay out what I mean by this, because I know it sounds. Claim is that immigrants make America stronger and richer.
Immigrants make America stronger and richer. First of all, nobody
If they
said
assimilate.
immigrants are bad. We said illegal immigrants are bad. Big difference. And
No.
I really hope somebody just
If they assimilate and they're
Hammers
not
that home.
encouraged to disdain American culture and maintain their own culture.
Yeah, exactly. Beneficiary. So as far as you're saying, the question you asked about the SNAP beneficiary, as far as my knowledge, I don't believe so. It's counted as, it depends on how much time in between, right? It's counted as a new person if it's, I don't know, at least probably a full year in between them getting off and then getting back on.
Yeah, because I know people like they have to reapply, so they're on it for a year and then they get kicked because they violate something, and they get like a 3-month suspension from receiving them.
Right.
And then they reapply as they get a new number and everything, and so I'm very confused.
Well, that's why
when they give it.
That's why
Huh?
that's why I said you're probably not going to find many that have been on for 10 years because it's hard to, because they do those checks every 6 months or whatever, and often people just they don't fill it out. And so then they get kicked until they go in and fill it out, which if that takes them
I know, and
1
then they
month to
immediately, and
do,
it's like a 3-month thing. So you can stay on it. You'll have periods of time when you're not on it. But I'm saying, is that count when they say
yes.
3 months to 3 years? Was it
Yeah, is the average time somebody is on.
on one term or one
Correct.
go? That's where I'm like, that's
Correct.
bullcrap. Because I just saw a thing that said 12.3% of the American population is on it, but they don't even give a number for how many people have been on it in the last 10 years.
And that is exactly
You know?
why singular statistics, are almost meaningless because you can manipulate them to
Yeah.
say whatever you want by making sure they either say or don't say what you want them to either say or don't say.
Which is
if we're looking at
obnoxious.
SNAP beneficiaries, we have to look at 50 different statistics about SNAP beneficiaries before we get an actual picture of what's going on. But we're never allowed to do that. Why would we not be allowed to do it if it's anything but good information?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see
Immigrants
what
make
his
America
pitch is on
stronger.
this.
That was his whole pitch. Immigrants make America stronger.
Hi,
Oh,
Jake.
wow.
Yes, nice
Hi,
to meet you.
it's nice to meet you. Let me just lay out what I mean by this, because I know it
Okay,
sounds a
there
little
you go.
controversial. I'm
Not at all.
8th generation Texan. My family's been here since it was Mexico. My
Oh,
mom
you're not
actually
an
grew up
immigrant?
in Laredo, right on the Texas-Mexico border. I feel like we Texans understand immigration more than people outside of Texas because we live with it.
every day, the benefits and the challenges. The more I travel the state, the more I've realized that most Texans are in the same spot on this issue. The metaphor I've used is that our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front and a lock on the door. We can both welcome the stranger, welcome immigrants who want to contribute to this economy.
So you're against
who
illegal
wanna live the
immigration?
American dream, who want to make us stronger and richer.
Just say that. You can just go up to his house and come in, sit down, and he'll give you some food.
I will say what I think not enough Democrats have been willing to say. Joe Biden failed us on our southern border. I remember talking to my colleagues in the Texas legislature who represent border communities. They told me about the utter chaos on the border.
Congrats for you for saying it after it doesn't matter
for
anymore.
Donald Trump to come in,
stunning and
masked
brave,
men in unmarked vehicles, secret police, tearing parents from their children, kidnapping people off the street.
Enforcing
secret police. Both parties have failed us on this issue.
Enforcing the
I think
illegal
we all should
immigration
come together
is bad.
and finally pass comprehensive immigration reform, more immigration judges, more border patrol, modernize
An
our ports of
amnesty
entry
for
where most of the
everybody here
fentanyl
that broke the
gets in,
law.
reform our asylum system, relieve the visa backlog. We should finally fix this problem instead of grandstanding on it.
What does that mean?
I completely agree.
What does that mean? Fix the backlog. It means approve all those people despite the fact they came here illegally.
And we don't know.
Amnesty.
And then that's the thing is, there's different people that break down the that you can find on like YouTube and stuff that break down the actual criminal statistics. And when they talk about illegal immigrants, when they say immigrants, they always talk about legal immigrants. They mix that into it for the crime rate. But if you factor in illegal immigrants, it goes through the freaking roof. And the other fact is, when we have an unsolved crime, the assumption is that it's a native person to this country. And there's a lot of unsolved crimes out there.
And that's beside the fact that many illegal immigrants are incorrectly categorized when they're booked into jail for exactly this reason. The amount of Hispanic people that are booked as white is a significant percentage. And you don't have to believe me. Go look at the booking photos of any Hispanic majority county and just see what they're, because you can see, you know, their name, race, age, all of that stuff. Just see what they're booked as and then look at their photo and you tell me.
And also, a big factor is the sanctuary cities don't report somebody's legal status.
Yep.
That is unbelievable. So when they try to use these statistics, it's literally make-believe. They're literally lying to your face, bold-faced lying, and they do the nod thing, so you feel like you have to nod too, you know?
I know what you're talking about. I really do. Yeah, it's the same thing they do with, you know, immigrants make $158 billion a year for Americans in tax revenue.
Million.
Yeah, but they leave out the fact that they cost $450 billion a year.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but one of those numbers sounds a little bigger.
We've said it over and over again. The left is at war, right? So they don't care if they're hypocritical. They don't care if they're lying through their teeth. And it's all mixed into these people that are brought up on the communist dialectic. The dialectic is the way that communists think. It's that you have a thesis and antithesis. And instead of finding which one's right, you combine the two and you hold two contrary notions in your head, which should explain why they're so stupid. I mean, it's like you can't do that. You literally, there is one truth, and that's where they get this: my truth, your truth, our truth, the ground's truth, my dog's truth.
My dog's truth.
My dog's truth.
Lizard.
All right.
I agree with you on that. But I disagree with is the claim that
kids and working parents,
Whoa,
it disrupts the entire supply chain.
Oh, damn it. Sorry, guys. That was my fault. Hold on. I'll get us right back where we were.
Oh, dude. Terrible on you. Terrible.
Immigrants are needed in this country. A lot of these immigrants are. I think there is a lot of nuance with is the.
And finally pass comprehensive immigration reform, more immigration judges, more border.
Real quick, how do you feel about amnesty? Because that's what he was about. That's what he's talking about with immigration reform and all that.
The amnesty thing?
Yeah.
Here's something I got into a little argument today. Okay, so they say somebody brought here as a child. They didn't choose to come here, right? And so they were brought here illegally as a child, and they didn't choose. They should not face the consequences of that action. These same people also argue for abortion. They also say abortion is a real thing, and abortion should happen.
Right. As you just said,
That's
they
the
don't care about being
dialectic
a
bull
hypocrite.
crap. So
Yeah.
I
said, as you just said, they don't care about being hypocrites.
It's just that contradiction in their head, and they don't care.
Yep. And the thing is, I might have been open to amnesty 20 years ago when there was, 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants, and we were trying to fix this then. If that also included sealing the border and no more illegal immigration, only legal immigration. But no, this is 100% on our representatives. They're the ones that screwed this up. They're the ones that led millions and millions and millions more to who knows where we're at. They've been citing that 14 to 20 million. They've been citing that number since 2001. There could easily be 50 million plus illegal immigrants in the country right now, for all we know, because like you said, half the states in the union don't report the illegal status of individuals.
Nope.
I'm not for granting amnesty to
It's
do
against
that.
their law. It's against their local law.
Yeah.
To report it.
Control, modernize our ports of entry where most of the fentanyl gets in, reform our asylum system, relieve
we're
the
back
visa
just a hair
backlog.
here, but
We should
I wanna
finally
make
fix
sure we
that
got it all.
mean?
instead of grandstanding.
Modernize our ports of
I completely
entry.
agree with you on that. But I disagree with it.
We literally just tried to modernize the port of entry in Jersey during the election season, and the union got Democrats to back them in not allowing them to add a computer system or whatever it was. They still have somebody that manually opens and closes the gate because the union requires it.
No, when we say modernize, that's what you call in language a floating signifier. It literally means nothing.
Yeah.
It all has to do with context. So he says modernize. What does that mean? Well, we're going to get cell phones. We're going to put some make sure everyone there got cell phone. I mean, it just means nothing.
Yeah. It means nothing at all, and it's ironic because the Democrat Party did exactly the opposite in the last case regarding a port of entry.
Right.
Is to claim that immigrants as a whole are making America stronger. I think there is a lot of nuance that is not added to that claim. I think that there are a lot of immigrants, and immigrants are needed in this country. A lot of these immigrants are the ones that are driving America forward. I also think that there are a lot of immigrants who America's supposed to be a melting pot. America's supposed to have people from everywhere come together, and there's this concept of assimilation where there should be partial assimilation. You don't. No one should be forced to completely assimilate and change who they are and change their beliefs.
Nobody should be
to
forced.
fit in.
They
but
should
at the same
completely
time,
assimilate.
Whenever we have people
What a
coming to
dumb
this country
argument.
and then
We do that to
going
people
out
all
on
the
the streets
time.
yelling that they
If
hate
they
the
break the
country,
law, we throw
it's
them in jail.
counterintuitive, and it really does hurt America as a whole.
I appreciate what he's trying to say, but that was a really bad way.
No,
of
I
putting it.
know, but
When I was a
It was a
teacher
really bad
on
way
the
to
west
put
side
it.
of San Antonio, I taught a lot of students who were undocumented. And I don't want to stereotype, but those students tended to be the most patriotic, the hardest working
whatever.
students that I had in the classroom.
anecdotal
They
evidence is the
understood
only
something
evidence.
about this country that even I, as a native-born American, often take for granted.
Very few
They
kids
believed that this was a land
are
of
exceptionally
opportunity,
patriotic
and
in
they were
general
ready to do whatever it
because
took
they're kids.
to make
They
it in
care
this
about
country.
what
and
they're
that's
doing
what
today.
generations of Italian and Irish immigrants did in this country. And I think if we
Come on, one
welcome
more
folks
flag.
who
Let's
want
get
to
rid of this
contribute,
guy.
who want to be Americans, it's going to make us stronger and richer because
You make
it
that
already
argument,
has.
and yet,
Pause. You've been
how many
voted out.
Irish
Great job.
immigrants
Yeah,
did,
nice to meet you.
how many Gaelic language centers did we set up? Did we put Gaelic underneath the signs?
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? So I would argue that as someone who has my dad's side, they come from immigrants and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm originally from Florida, so
Yeah.
I'm African and black, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm in favor of stricter borders, mainly because when we have so many immigrants now that are just coming like as a flock and from everywhere, from India, from Japan, however you want to put it. I think what's happening now is that like just how
the Asian woman
the guy who won
from
New York,
Japan and
what's his name?
Mamdani.
Mamdani.
Yes.
I think that the people when there's too many immigrants coming, they think that they know America better than the originators or people that are born here generationally, and it causes a conflict on government. Like, you know,
he sounds like a groiper.
Ramazani, I don't know how to say his name, the Indian guy.
Okay.
Who was born here, right?
Mamdani.
And now he's a part of the government. And I think that kind of plays a part in religion, government, what we believe in, because a lot of them may not be Christian, maybe Buddhist, and they may just have a different ideology and may not like what you see for us, they may not see for us, and they may try to change it. Same way how Indians come over and get H1B visas or whatever, and they bond together, make money together, and don't want any other race, culture working with them as a whole. So that's why I believe overall stricter borders should be put in place and a stricter citizenship process, because it's not the same as what it used to be. It used to be a lot easier, but now it's getting a lot harder, which is a good thing because,
I agree that we need more secure borders. We're not disagreeing on that. What I am saying is that America as a melting pot is what makes us so special as a country.
Did you just say there's an open doormat?
Richer and stronger as a country.
Well, no, he said a welcome mat and a lock on the front door. He's paying lip service to the idea of secure borders while arguing for all the policies that create
We know how they implement them. Look at Joe Biden.
So I didn't hear what he said that they're fact-checking, but let's read the fact-check. Immigrants in the country legally and illegally contribute to billions of dollars a year in the Social Security Trust Fund, helping to offset the decline ratio of workers to retirees among U.S. citizens. Yeah, again.
That's a lie.
They generate 156. They cost 450. It's pretty simple. On top of that, the Social Security Fund is a Ponzi scheme. I'm not saying that to insult it. It is literally designed as a Ponzi scheme. The money they're paying into Social Security, they're going to get back out. It's not as if that's benefiting anybody.
These white Democrats that are getting older have this fantasy that because they don't have any kids, and there's no one to take care of them when they get older, that these immigrants are going to come in and just wipe their butt and take care of them like their own children. Have you ever been to a nursing home?
Well, and
it is absolute ghastly.
This claim is essentially, don't worry, because the illegal immigrants are going to pay for your grandma who's on Social Security right now, and then we're not going to give them their Social Security, so it'll be fun. It's either that or we're 10 times as screwed when it comes time to give them back their Social Security. That's the only way Social Security can work. It was never meant to last this long. It was never meant to be a permanent thing because it was always a Ponzi scheme. And we could solve it today, but we don't.
Immigrants.
Right.
Undocumented
illegal
people.
immigrants aren't solving
it. You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
So nice to see you. Yeah, great job.
We're going to have to wrap this here soon and finish this tomorrow.
All right, cool.
Let's see.
Malik, so
we'll see how
just got
fast
cut
we
off.
get through this 12 minutes here.
Have you heard the claim that Social Security is going to go bankrupt?
Yes.
And do you know why Social Security is not bankrupt today?
No.
So it's immigrants that are keeping Social Security solvent. Undocumented people pay into Social.
Immigrants can legally get a Social Security number if they receive work authorization. In addition, the government estimates approximately 1 million immigrants are using fraudulent or stolen Social Security numbers to work. All of them pay payroll taxes. Yeah, and they also receive benefits that are tenfold to what they pay.
I know, and also, I bet they're claiming 9 dependents.
I guess fivefold. Yeah.
Social Security through their I-10 numbers, and they don't take any benefits in return.
Right.
So they
and it's a relatively small number that have legal work authorization.
He literally just lied through his teeth.
Solvent. 5% of the entire armed forces are immigrants. These are people who can't even vote,
5%.
but they're willing to lay down their lives for this country. And we have 7 million.
According to the way they talk about it, you'd think it'd be 50%.
That still need to be filled.
Right.
We have more jobs than there are workers in this country.
No, we don't. There are not more jobs than there are workers. As of August There were 7.2 million job openings in the U.S., approximately 7.4 million unemployed people, and an additional 6.4 who didn't actively look for work but want a job, totaling almost 14 million people for 7.2 million
You know
openings.
that
Meaning,
like
there's
it's like you're 19 years old and your dad's like, you need to go get a job, and you're like, yeah, I don't want a job.
no, that's
Totally
not all
want
it is,
one.
though. That's not all it is. Real quick, that means there are 2 people looking for a job for every job there is. But it's people that are unemployed for more than 3 months, they automatically move them to this other category. So if you're
I
unemployed for
think
more
it's a
than 3
year.
months,
I think it's a year, right?
well, let's find out now so we're
No,
not
no,
lying.
no. Let's
I'll
get.
keep
Guys, we gotta
playing,
get
but I'm going
through
to
it.
find out because I want to know for sure. I thought it was 3 months.
And so my argument here, this claim that I'm making, is that by welcoming immigrants who want to contribute, who want to build their own American dream, they actually help benefit all of us and the entire economy.
I would agree with that, but I think this conversation is going in a extremely dangerous direction.
Okay.
100%. And I'll tell you why. So it's really easy to identify a problem.
Yeah.
But what's the solution?
Yeah.
Let's talk about immigration. And I would agree.
Yeah.
They do make this country better. And I agree that huge welcome doormat and then locking the door.
Yep.
But okay, what's the process of people actually getting to the door in the first place?
Yeah.
What's going to be deemed fair? What's going to be deemed unfair?
Yep.
That's where that's what's going to, because any
Yes.
politician can say, yes, immigrants.
So real quick, in the U.S. government unemployment stats, you're considered not in the labor force and not counted as unemployed, so not included in those 7.4 million unemployed if you haven't actively looked for work in the past 4 weeks.
But how does that?
That's those
Really?
that's the other 6.4 million people that don't have a job but want one. They're not counted in the unemployment numbers because they haven't found a job within 4 weeks.
Actively looking. What does that even mean? I think that means
It means
that
they
you're
didn't find a
getting-
job in within 4 weeks. Yeah.
Does it mean you're not getting, like, how do you know? How do they determine if you're actively looking? Who do you report to say you're making job applications, you know?
It says you must have actively looked for work in the prior 4 weeks. Example, contacting employers, attending interviews, using employment agencies. If someone stops looking for work for more than 4 weeks, they are no longer considered. This group also includes. Let me ask real quick.
Oh, I think that has to do with if you're receiving unemployment benefits, right?
Yeah, probably
because
so.
Yeah, when you're on unemployment benefits, you have to report that you've been looking.
Yeah, it's probably just via, certain questionnaires of people that are on benefits that they send out, and then they just extrapolate that, which is even less accurate. But
Yeah.
government determines if someone is actively looking for work primarily through current population survey, a monthly survey of 60,000 households conducted by the Census Bureau. To be classified as actively looking, an individual must have performed at least one active. So yeah, it's self-reporting. They determine
That's
via
stupid.
60,000 self-reports. Yeah.
Yeah, those
good.
people don't lie, so this is really beneficial.
Yeah. So take it for what it's worth.
Poor people should have money. It's like that. Okay, cool. But like, what does that process look like?
Well, and I want to talk about the
There's finally
specific
somebody
solutions,
trying
but
to
I do just
nail
want to
in on
acknowledge that
actual-
both parties are not actually talking about welcoming immigrants and securing the border.
Yes, they are.
So I think the problem here is we don't have candidates or elected officials who are speaking to the giant middle ground where most Texans and most Americans are. Most
Right.
people are pro-immigrant and pro-security. And so am I. To answer your question about
Yeah.
what would comprehensive reform look like?
Yes.
A lot of people say immigrants should come here the right way. I agree. The problem is there's not really a right way anymore. There's not even a line that moves at any real pace. There are people who have applied to be here who have waited 20, 30 years. Some people have died before they got a response back.
And all the
That's
illegal
not a
immigrants
line.
and
If we
fake
want
asylum
a real line, it has to
claims
be
are
a
what have
fast
pushed them
moving.
And are they
aside.
living
We've
here
got to
still?
prioritize people
Yeah,
who are
that
going to
too.
fill the jobs that need to be filled.
Okay.
And we want to prioritize people who are actually claiming asylum and who need safety.
Okay.
Those are the groups in my mind that need to be
They
prioritized.
screwed it when they
but we're never
started
gonna be able to
saying
process-
income, right? When it's financial refugee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, he just said, fill the jobs that need to be filled. So he wants to fill the 7.4 million jobs that there are 2 Americans waiting for each one of those jobs with illegal aliens, leaving all 13, 14 million of those Americans out of work. And under the Biden administration, the job employment numbers, it was like 90-some% of every single job filled under the Biden administration was filled by an illegal alien, not by a U.S. citizen. I shouldn't say that. It wasn't filled by an illegal alien. It was filled by a non-U.S. citizen. So one way or another, it was a non-citizen. They might have been an illegal visa holder or work permit holder or asylum seeker, but they weren't U.S. citizens either way. Imagine if all those jobs were actually filled by U.S. citizens.
Those folks, unless we have enough immigration judges, unless we have enough border patrol, unless we modernize the ports of entry, 93% of the fentanyl that comes into this country comes through the ports of entry. It doesn't come over the Rio Grande.
Through the CIA.
It comes through the ports.
According to the Customs and Border Protection, more than 90% of seized fentanyl is stopped at ports of entry. It's found in passenger vehicles and tractor trailers in secret compartments or disguised as another product. I don't buy that for a second.
Seized. No, seized, right? Yeah. That's how we know what's seized.
Right.
So if they're seizing it, how is it getting in then?
Yeah.
It's almost like they're not going through there. If I knew there was a 90% chance that they were going to seize it for me going through the port, I'm going to like go swim across the Rio, you know?
How much total fentanyl? I bet we can discount this right now. Is seized at U.S. ports of entry per year. Because I bet you the amount seized per year, so if it's 90%, let's see how much total it is, that would mean 10% gets through. And so that would mean 10% of whatever the number seized is makes it onto the streets, right? And I guarantee that 10% doesn't even represent a 1% what's actually on the streets. Because the stuff they send through the ports of entry is literally just to give Border Patrol a job. It's to make it look like they're doing something. The huge amounts come through tunnels, they come through planes, they come through ships. Because it's a lot more than you can shove in the glove box of a Toyota fucking Camry.
Or your butt talk.
Yeah. 24,000 pounds is all they seized. I thought it was going to be in the hundreds of thousands. 24,000 pounds is all they seized last year. And that's double 2022, which was only 11,000 pounds. That means that 1,000 pounds are getting to the street. Get out of here. There's probably 1 million pounds of fentanyl on the street. Oh, God. We'll have to look into that in the future. Because I bet you I can
technology
prove
of the manpower
big amounts are coming in an illicit way.
And so those are the things we have to do. Yeah, please.
Quick, because like I said, this is where it gets really dangerous because that's what we can blow over. Okay, we've identified the problem. The problem is there's not a quote unquote right process. But at that same time, there needs to be some process. So with the line, what does that process look like? Knowing that there's not a
Trying
right
to bring him back to the actual question.
Right, like what? Okay, so what's the line going to be?
And a lot of the problem is manpower, right? We don't have enough folks in the system who
What's
are doing
the line going to be? Well, part of the problem is manpower.
Has grown the size of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, except it's not people doing immigration and customs enforcement. It is a secret police force that is terrorizing communities.
It is
in
getting
North
rid of
Texas.
the illegals that are in
There
the
was
way
a mom
of
and
the
dad,
legal
the Vargases.
immigrants.
They own a dry cleaners here in Dallas. They're beloved by their customers, by their neighbors. They were dropping their daughter off at Texas Tech University, one of the best universities in the state of Texas. They were on their way back from dropping her off at school. I stopped them, detained them. They are still in a detention center. I do not want my law enforcement or my immigration enforcement officials focused on the Vargases. I want them focused on murderers and rapists and gang members,
Which
people
they
who mean to do us
overwhelmingly
harm.
are.
When we devote law enforcement resources to going after the Vargases, it makes us all less safe. So I'm just asking for sanity in the system.
All right, pause.
So you hate them, but they have an important job to do.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
the secret police. They're just not doing it right.
We're going to have to stop it there for today. And we'll finish this tomorrow. But yeah, so what's your take on the first half of this so far?
I like this guy. I think he's the perfect fit for America.
He's going to make a great senator from the great state of Texas. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I wish I could ask him some questions. Hey, can you tell me why you're so good? Why are you such a good person?
This is the type of politician that I would categorize with a Gavin Newsom, right? A what's his name? That was Pete Hegseth. Pete, the transportation secretary under Biden. Pete Buttigieg. Those kind of politicians, right? Kamala Harris is another example, although she was just a lot worse at answering questions. So she never really lived up to being that good. But they're really good at talking. They have a great smile. They got their hair combed over right. They're very clean cut. Sorry. But they don't say anything at all.
Without saying anything.
Yeah, they're literal psychopaths is what they are. And so they're really good at manipulating people. Notice how he's getting through each of these conversations without actually answering a single question. And nobody has called that out directly yet. Because in the moment when you're sitting there talking to him, the way that he's presenting information is hard for you to keep up with. Because you're trying to decipher all these euphemisms and all these things that he said. What does he mean by this? When in reality, he's just dancing around the question altogether. He's not answering the question.
Yeah, like what you do is you take in the question, you repeat the question, and you go, yeah, we should do something about that. You know, it would be good to do this. And I believe in dignity for everybody. What do you mean by dignity? Oh, then answer that shit.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We are now streaming live to X, Rumble, Twitch, and YouTube at the same time. If you can, choose to watch on Rumble, please, because that gives us the most freedom to do this show in the way that we want to do the show rather than the way we're forced to do the show like we would be on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're trying to get on TikTok as well. That will hopefully be done by tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we've been doing TikTok through Austin Miller.
Yeah, we've done a couple so far.
Yeah,
you can check out MillerTalk_pod. And when Austin is on the show, he is streaming the podcast through that page on TikTok. So you can check out MillerTalk_pod to find it there, as well as check him out, MillerTalk_pod.substack.com, because he has a great podcast of himself. He just started doing it again. He took a small break. He's back doing it. So go like and follow him as well.
He's Oklahoman, but we won't, you know.
Yeah, he's all right for an Oklahoman, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, where can they find you, Alan?
First Alan 2 at X, on X.
First Alan 2 on X. And you can find this show, all the links for the show are at
American Satirist, by the way.
Yep, American Satirist at First Alan 2. All the links for the show are available at anchor.fm/JBU, x.com/JBU_show. And then, like I said, you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and X as well on the live stream, same place. Everywhere else, it's just between us. Usually all one word. Anyway, with that, Alan's going to take us out with a prayer here.
Took my hat off, then comb my hair today. All right. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. All right, with that, my name is Chris.
And I'm Alan.
And this has been Just Between Us.
Well, you're not going to salute? What, do you hate America?
Bye, 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 bye.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Between us.
This is just between us.
This is just between us.